is it to be you today? This is Ronnie streaming live from Hamburg. Cozy weather today, weird situation, and welcome. Let me do some updates. How is it to be you today? This is Ronnie streaming live from Hamburg. Cozy weather today, weird situation, and let me do It was kind of impromptu decision today to do this, and then I figured out I really need to recheck the levels and everything, and done that. Thank you, Felix. Echo should be gone right now, and I hope the levels are right. It's somewhat balanced. Maybe you can let me know. I prepared with little Heineken, which I'm going to be opening right now. Sorry for the noise. Yeah, how are you? How is it to be you? I say cheers. The music is too loud. That can be easily fixed, and this should work. All right, better? Yeah, I still haven't really figured out the setup. Just give me a second. This does the job. This should be probably too low. Yeah, I figured out some kind of streaming issue in my setup today, which is based in between the play of the mic preamp, OBS, routing stuff virtually. It's messy anyway. Let me close a few windows and have a sip of beer. I hope the connection isn't suffering today from anything that's going on. I wonder how long it would fix to actually fix internet issues right now. No JCO, I can't add a low cut to the mic because I don't have access to the signal chain right now. The P's, so I should avoid doing the P's. Okay. Yeah, sorry. I will totally get a different microphone set up soon. That makes a lot of sense. Things are not going to be perfect, I guess. But what is right now? So, Sanity stream, personal updates, music production. There's a lot of stuff we can actually talk about, right? Music needs to be turned down some more. Yeah, this is going to be the portion of the recap you don't want to watch, probably. Is it better now? Like that? should turn that up. So, sorted. It's funny how every time I watch a music production guy go online with a rather complicated setup, like modern music technology, and he has similar struggles, and I find that somewhat liberating and relieving. So I hope you are all at good health and don't have struggles with your parents in trying to make them do things differently, or whatever the things we are dealing with right now. I hope that's not an issue for you, and stay healthy. And I find it really rather fascinating what's happening right now in the world, I have to say. So my overall panic level is inexistent. I stick to the news. I noticed today that standing in the queue at the supermarket was different. Like, people were actually mindful with the safe space of each other, and I found that rather cool. And that's new. So, quick check. Another thing I couldn't help thinking about is like, what's going on with the CO2 levels right now? I mean, I heard that the sun keeps shining in northern Italy right now. Maybe there is a little bit of positive stuff as well to focus on. Not that this right now is really shit enough. However, I really like the idea that the entire planet right now is more or less busy thinking about the same things, and that's kind of new. I mean, last things I remember in my personal life were Chernobyl and 9/11. Maybe that's a good thing. I kinda see things that way. I'm trying to focus on positive unintended consequences and try to, well, I obviously stay at home right now as well, and it's not that I don't belong to those who stacked up on toilet paper. I doubt that there will be any shortage soon. I wonder if especially Germans are stacking up with toilet paper because historically they are not good at dealing with shit. So, who do we have here? JCO, Chais, Felix, Khan, Sienna, Thomas, hello, Timur, former colleague of mine, hi. And I hope you manage to stay sane, really. Like, another thing I noticed is how I become much more aware of the kind of news I want to read, the links I want to click. Someone recently offered a link about a conspiracy theory, how the virus was potentially crafted in China and all that stuff, and I was like, what is this information going to provide me? What's the value? Is this something I want to have in my head? No. Yeah, let's not read that. That's kind of interesting. And especially another thing I noticed today, that my level of fear of missing out is totally vanished. There is like nothing to do in the world right now. I can easily sit at home and think about the things I want to do next, and I find that kind of liberating and strange. Do you have witnessed anything like that? So, yes, I'm reading the chat right now. It's got a Christmassy feeling this morning. Yes, you're right, Gijs. It does. Yeah, sorry, the beer wants to go out. We've been there already, right? This is without gas. Oh, interesting. Companies I work with are having problems sending employees home. Yeah, it's very interesting. I heard a story about a not too techy company running out of VPN keys in this situation right now. I wonder if they're also still working with Windows 95. But on the other hand, I heard from my former colleagues that they have been sent home as well, and I think that's a very good thing. And yeah, I hope, I wonder what we can learn about that. I mean, meetings, you're sitting in those. I really hope that they will get re-evaluated. What do we spend time with right now? I mean, especially if you have children at home, younger kids, and you need to take care about them. Do we really need this meeting right now? And that's a question I hope a lot of people will ask. That's a good one. Maybe work will become much more efficiently right now. Could also be an interesting fallout. But I don't know. So, news. What have I been up to, and what about new videos and all that stuff? As some of you may know, I started a Discord on the last day of 2019, and it turned out to be super awesome. I really like that. It's like IRC back in the 90s, very familiar setting, and lots of good discussions around things that matter and then some. And I've been facilitating and working on the frame for quite a while, and I'm really happy to see it works. And that kind of bound also a lot of time, but I'm learning a lot of that about what people need and want, especially if they came into the Discord through this channel. And that's cool because what you may not know is I've been on some kind of sabbatical for like 9 months right now. I lost a job last year, and I wondered what I want to do, and I followed the advice by many people. Like, at a certain age you should take a year off, and I happened to do that and went kind of a long way, and eventually figured out I don't really want to, or rather I want to work more in the field of music again, and doing more videos and helping people on their route. I've also started coaching a few guys, and it's been really interesting so far. That gets me to the point where, thanks to my Discord, who has pushed me to do it, I opened a Patreon, which I would like to invite you to, which is patreon.com/arctic. And my idea or goal is to create and facilitate and manage a community around electronic music production. where I can cater my content more efficiently towards what you need. And for this I set up a poll. So if you get any value out of my streams, the few ones I did, or my videos, please support me. That's weird to ask for support, but here it is. Because I really want to keep doing that, and I want to keep focusing on that exclusively, and I want to do this full time. And that is also the reason for the lack of videos during the last 2 months, because I've been working a lot on structuring content, talking to the community about things they need, and I'm thinking about how to structure stuff in also smaller doses that are more manageable, other than 90-minute sessions. However, there are 2 polls right now. If you get any value out of this, for one, buy me coffee. That would be great. And please check out the polls. That would be really helpful. There will be more, and if you join, I want to start a conversation about what you need, when you need it, maybe help you to find out more about the areas you're struggling with, like helping you determine your unknown unknowns, and stuff like that. And there will be a second tier. I'm working on that. So the first one is really like, I like what you're doing, please keep doing that, and I will do that. I will continue pushing videos, making sessions, and all that stuff. That is out of question. The question is how much. And yeah, well, that a little bit depends upon you out there. So I cannot operate in a vacuum, and I really find the joy in helping people getting better at doing what they want to do in terms of music and synthesis, sound design, and whatever I know. I want to just give it away for free, everything. Unfortunately, I can't live from air alone, so let's find out where this is going. And that's about the commercial bit. And let me check out the chat real quick. So, hey Luigi, greetings to Berlin. Cheers. Yeah. Gaspar. Had to cancel all of my Patreon commitments a few months ago for personal reasons. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you are doing well and you'll be able to work things out. Sounds rather shitty. Get a vague idea of what's going on. Yeah. Teachers are suddenly beginning to experiment with video conference stuff. Yeah, that's also an interesting development, Jesse. You're totally right. So, assuming we right now have maybe a little bit more time or mind space because some stress is falling apart or other is coming on top, I don't know. We all don't know what's going to happen. How can we maximize the additional resources we have? And like I said, this stream is rather unprepared. So anyway, I can share a few things that work well for me. Hello. Is it UP fun or up fan or? And something I want to install on Patreon as well is challenges with very defined limitations. For example, set the clock to 90 minutes, grab a bass drum, put it into a sampler and see what you can create with only that bass drum and samplers and a few effects. Or how do different kinds of waveforms respond to modulations? That's also very interesting. I mean, we have stuff like sine waves who don't have, well, it's just basic information, right? And how does it respond to FM, which is the area that works? How does a triangle react to FM with a little bit more harmonic content? Why or in which areas do sawtooth waveforms work? And I found Ableton's wavetable very cool for that because it's so simple to use. I mean, let me check. We've got FM down here. Here we go, just noise. What happens if we do it here? Oh well, that's modulating as well. This is probably too. But that is a very interesting field to learn more about synthesis, just focusing on one synth and one type of waveform and see what you can do. I mean, organs are made from sines mostly. That's kind of obvious, but triangle is very interesting, especially if you want these nice e-piano type chords. Those work very well. Or maybe you want to learn a new tool. I'm keen on talking about Bitwig sometime soon, or talking about specific instruments and other things and plugins and all that stuff, which I don't think this context is right now too good for. Anyway, gotta check the chat for a second. Yeah, thank you, Luigi. I have really benefited from the community for the past 2 weeks already. Huge amounts of useful advice. Just being part of the community is a huge help. Yeah, just to be clear, the community is not a thing I wanted to tie into the Patreon. It is a lot of work. At the same time, it's a very good resource of learning for me and becoming more aware of things that are under my radar. If you have watched any of my videos, a lot of stuff I need to dig out of my brain as well at the particular moment that I'm thinking about stuff. Otherwise, it's just going subconsciously under the radar. It's a lot of muscle memory at work. But community is open and will stay open, and maybe someone can post the link, or it will definitely be in the comments after making this video available again. Same with, of course, the Patreon link. Yeah, I've been told I need to address this, and it feels strange. Another thing, but wait, chat. Ah, Gaspar, I didn't know you were part of the community as well. Did I forget your name? Demoscene old school right here. School, yeah, yep. Lots of fellow sceners. Hey, Sasha. Linus, ASMR. I'm so sorry. The ASMR stuff is because proximity. I think if I turn the microphone away enough, I need to crank up the volume, and then I'm picking up much more room noise. So as cool as this microphone sounds, it's a large condenser thingy with all its quirks, and it's not the best choice, or I'm simply too dumb because I haven't dealt with microphones enough in my life. So ASMR, yeah, sorry, maybe that's a good thing. Gaspar, you're Penrek. Oh wait, Uwe. Hello. More demo scene here. So, what I'm really looking forward to is this. So, my good mate Felix, let me unplug this real quick, was kind enough to give me his OB6 for a second. And I guess he's afraid he's never going to see it again. Don't be afraid. So I'm currently analyzing the shit out of this and why it sounds so creamy, and I'm finding out a lot of things and try to replicate the oscillator and filter structure in Bitwig, and that works really well. It's very, very, very interesting how far you can take Bitwig's grid and build your own synths in that. It really caters to that. I also built a Solina type thing recently, and it sounds damn good and close, and I was fascinated how well that worked. So if anyone's interested in streams about that, let's do it. So yeah, since science, please, yeah, be careful what you wish for. Oh, another thing, I know I've been talking about this a lot, and I wrote about this a lot in the past, that hopefully final compression video is shaping up. I started collecting all the ideas and made research and more stuff, and I'm close to being able to record the first video, which hopefully gets to terms in human understandable ways with what these weird devices are doing. And spoiler, it's not really their issue. So I'm looking forward to that. Give me time. It is a lot of thinking. I've been thinking about this like for 3 years already, how to tackle that in ways that are easy to comprehend, and I'm afraid it will be fucking confusing. Anyway, I will also clean up the mess afterwards. Promise. So that's shaping up. Another thing I've been obsessing with, and the community knows and was super helpful, is nonlinear signal processing. If you have watched the first video live stream thing where I was talking about how the stereo phase is opening, and I used an Bootsy or a variety of sound effect for that, or alternatively the Waves nonlinear summer, I figured out how that happens, and it's really stupid simple. It's like only processing stuff not in stereo channels but left and right individually, and it's so obvious that it made me slap my head really hard. I mean, and that's something you can try right now tonight. Just take a channel, split the signal in left and right, and then change the levels on the left and right just a little bit, and you can watch how the stereo image is obviously opening. And it's interesting how this is very prominent in old records, because obviously analog consoles, it sounds vaguely correct and right, but those old potentiometers and knobs, they were very inaccurate. And so if you simply set up the gain structure on the input, it wasn't 100% the same. If you tweak the bass on both channels in dual mono, it probably wasn't the same. Maybe some folks forgot to enable the high pass filters on both channels at the same time, and there's a lot of interesting stuff happening that eventually helps the signals to sound better, especially if you are also saturating stuff here and there. And I felt so dumb. It's kind of so obvious, but it isn't. And interestingly enough, people make a plugin about that and write something about modeling and all that, and all you get is a box of different parameters for left and right channels. Interesting. Really interesting. Quick chat check. I would be interested in streams that talk about a balanced mix. For example, this music right now, I don't think I've ever created anything so smooth. My stuff is always resonating. Is it, Luigi? I heard a lot of your tracks right now, and I don't think that was as much of an issue, really. Anyway, yes, mixing is a very open-ended topic, and it's one of the things that I'm trying to structure that right now, and it will probably start with setting up volume and panning. So with the really, really simple things. But I guess it's necessary that I do all these basic things from my perspective. And I mean, why not? So hello everyone, I'm from Russia. Positive channel. Thanks to the author. You're welcome. Hello to Russia. I hope you're well. I unfortunately don't compute Cyrillic, but I like Cyrillic so much. It looks sexy. Yeah. Cheers to that. Stay sane. And that's the only beer I have today. For good reasons. So there is a reason why there are many plugins out there that are kinda secretive about they actually do. Yes, for various reasons. And I can see why. We also chat a lot about different saturation plugins and stuff like that, and I find it really hard to get away from the bias of a fancy interface. So shiny knobs and wood and all that stuff, it does influence and skew my perception. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, get a friend to make a A/B test with you. Ask him to... No, you cannot ask him, because it won't work. Anyway, just making stuff louder by a dB will already make you opt for that. even though nothing has changed. Abfan, is it possible live from Dub Techno? Yeah. In case you were hoping for a detailed thing about, I don't know, secrets or cool stuff or specific focused things, this is more an offering to have a good time, have a beer, sit on the couch, and participate and help me figure out what you need. So in case you tune in right now, Patreon polls, please let me know. Fill them out. It's good. So I can create content that matches what you need more efficiently. Because I don't know, people have written in a lot of stuff and it's helpful, but it's really hard to monitor everything, and I want to be able to have like one main channel of information from people who are committed. Because I mean, it's very simple to write something on YouTube, and I'm grateful for all the positive comments you left. However, sometimes I'm writing something as a reply and there isn't an answer anymore, and it might be an open loop in my head, so I get lost. Right. So, hey, Stereo Jack, hello mate. Don't drink and drone. No, I did the drinking already, and now we drone. Yes, Luigi, good luck finishing your new album. And thank you very much for your interest. Alright. Thank you, Felix. Can you live from dub techno? That is a very good question. I don't think so. That kind of defeats the purpose, right? And the way I think about my Patreon is not strictly limited to dub techno, neither is the Discord. If you are interested in music, the way I put it, that doesn't sacrifice emotion for status, that's what we talk about. It can be techno, not specifically the rumble kind of stuff. So any kind of trend I would like to keep out of this and help people making their art and help them getting better with their craft, really. So this is more, for me, this is more about perspective and connecting dots to first principles. And thank you, Stefan, for giving me this piece of language that really helps, helping you to understand the basic principles of sound, and what you do with that is really up to you. If you want to use it to make dub techno or Detroit techno or whatever it's applicable to, go ahead and do it. So to me, this is more about teaching the basics to folks who make good art and not the commercial stuff. And yes, I totally wanted to say crap. Some artists make a fortune from that genre, but only a handful. Who do you have in mind, Seren? Yes, I'm still droning. This won't change, I think. Oh wait, I have a bass drum. Wait. Big change. And it's still out. So I have an idea. Stuff to talk about. That's really super weird and cool. So I'm always digging for plugins and stuff nobody knows or nobody uses, or stuff that might be just not commercial product. And I lately stumbled across this a guy named Chowry, and I think he's studying non-linear signal processing, and he made a few plugins based on the idea of aging components, like, I don't know, broken transistors, where you can dial in how old it is. And if you're interested in what a filter with component sounds at 100 degrees Kelvin that is 92.5 years old, you should check it out. It's really cool. I need to figure out that link later. Anyway, it's really interesting. So these are all his plugins, and just let me try to find. I should have really prepared better for this. No. Wait, there is something called history, right? No, let's not do that. There it is. Hello, good sir, good other sir in Cyrillic whose name I unfortunately cannot read, I'm sorry. I will definitely leave a record after streaming. However, this guy, github.com Jatin Chaudhuri 18. He made stuff that is so super odd, and let me put this here and hope it doesn't crash. So he has this diode clipper, for example, just to give you the idea. And let's make the bass drum solo for a second. And disable the noise. And you can dial in the H, and it starts getting more noisy. And you've got to be cautious with this one because it easily renders the entire plugin to dust like that. Sorry. And then it crashed. Yeah, be careful, it's beta. It's not a product. Anyway, you can get some really strange dying sounds out of that, especially if you play around with the tolerance and the cap leak and the H. So let's not totally overdo that. And this one right now, yeah, well, it's a clipper. It's a diode clipper, so nothing too fancy about that. He also has a, where is it? A nice Salon key low-pass filter with aging components and op-amp. And play around with that. If you like degrading in your sound, these are really interesting. It's very fantastic stuff. And look what it does to Ableton. It just completely fucks up everything. Nice. So, cool stuff. And it's free as well. And if you look into his repository, he also has these complex non-linearities, which are... No, that's not the diode stuff, but also interesting VST plugins. And a analog tape model that's kind of interesting, and the other repository is called Bed Circuit Modeling, and you find VST plugins, and let me do that again. You find VST plugins in the bin folder. So cool stuff, interesting for experimenting. I really enjoy that. Quick chat check. I have a wonderful voice. Thank you very much. I'm blushing. Stereojack, why don't you switch over to Bitwig and show some of its boundless features or other software doesn't offer? Would anyone be interested in that? I mean, we can do this right now. I plan to do a focused video about that, but if anyone's interested, we can do that. Jamal, hi. I've got a question about mid-side processing. What do you put to the sides and what in the center? I don't think that's a question of... Are you really asking about mid and side processing or mono stereo panning? That's a difference. Please let me know before I jump onto the wrong conclusion. Upfan, I don't know the Factor synth. It's an Max for Life device? No, I haven't run into it yet. Is it good? What does it do? Okay. Yeah, thank you, Stereojack, for the answer. It's up to you, but if you get a painting done with music, you might need a deep tight middle section, the fluffy sides maybe. Ja. Hi Miguel. Ich habe heute keinen Bock zu ballern. Ballern. Geil, Kickboxen. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. What? So, if that question is around panning, then if you have all your information presented from one direction, your brain isn't able to really pick up everything because everything is just coming at you once. So you want to use panning to separate things, which also helps to lower the levels on some channels. And Stereo Jack, maybe you can stick in a link or something about the Michael Stavru book, Mixing with Your Mind. Great book. Yeah, and why is this still open? So, but maybe, what if I made everything mono? Oh, that's cute. Some strange phasing. It's probably the Korai. What's the plural of chorus? Koraye? Kori? Korsis? Korai? Korka? I don't know. Anyway, if the question was about mids and sides, as in mid and side processing, then it would be about processing these individually, maybe. And what I'm doing there is, for example, EQs. I love using the SPL passive in mid-side mode and just bring up, for example, the 4K on the sides to open the stereo field and remove a little in that area around the same, maybe put it a little bit down to help other tracks sit better in the mix. Also, removing bass on the sides can be a good idea if you don't have another way of taming low frequency information when you use choruses, for example, on Uno-type warm pads. Can be a good idea. Uwe, mach Mono, wenn es dann mehr ballert. I doubt this is ballering. Prima ballerina. Full mono on such reverberated atmospheric sounds can evoke a beautiful sense of distance. JCO, do you mean in this particular context right now? I found that rather phasey and strange. It's really just something I tossed together very quickly. Yeah, but that's also an interesting exercise maybe for using time during the next days. Is take any project you have, remove all kinds of stereo processing and start with the level structure and try to, well, just put everything down and start with bringing up kick and bass and build your level structure around that and see how panning can help you create a sense of space and evening out volume issues or level issues. That was really some interesting lesson that I learned from Stereo Jack. Like, panning, use it. It's not a town in China. And try to create as much balance as you can without any EQs, just with volume and panning. Just 90 minutes straight and maybe open another project and do the same, and then start bringing in your stereo modulation effects and all that stuff. And maybe if you have acquired a good balance to start from, the levels of your stereo modulation effects and reverbs and delays will be different as well, because the space works better. That could potentially happen, and that's something totally worth trying, because I mean, levels and panning, they are the most basic and probably most overlooked thing, because everybody is talking about compression and limiting and filters and all the fancy stuff all the time, and these are really the most crucial ingredients. If your levels suck, your track sucks. That is some kind of ultimate truth. Don't make it like this. Okay. JCO says, if you make a reverb mono, for example. Yes, that's also really interesting. What modulation effects sound like if you control the width more or restrain the width. Very often I found that my reverbs are just too spacious, or delays, and things start sounding more coherent, especially if you have a rather mono-y mix, that if you narrow things down, it becomes more cohesive. It doesn't necessarily have to be mono, but it's an interesting experiment as well to use. I think, I mean, let's try that for a second here. Just throw in a utility. So and it's interesting how, let me pull it in here as well. Well, for one, it sounds less loud, and the other thing, it sounds more intricate or intimate. And when I start just adjusting the width of the channels individually, I can control the cohesiveness of the entire mix. Contrary to that, I mean, that's the no-go setting, at least to me. This doesn't work anymore. And it's interesting how obvious it is. I'm not sure, especially on headphones, it feels like the width is falling from the face of the earth. Because the mids, there is a slight gap between mono and the very far out information, and it's the blank that sounds very unnatural. I don't even like that. And yeah, in this setting, that's too little, maybe not to my liking, but you get the idea, hopefully. Just a quick experiment. So, hi George. No, I'm not finished. It's an hour. No. Isa, I'm very interested in the sound design of Wanker's Elevation Part 2 Reduced. Yeah. I don't have it in mind. I would have to listen to that, but it's one of the tracks with a very harsh high-end noise and that stuff. If that is about the track I have in mind, use a lot of distortion. Make cuts, EQ cuts that are really harsh, filter out stuff nastily and drive shit to hell. Especially the high end. And then probably in the box you have to remove a lot of the very high end again to make sounds much more bearable, but that's a lot of distortion right there, maybe some pedals. And also what you don't want in these sounds that are so raw is chorus and modulation effects, because they, and that's interesting. If you say raw to a sound, I think it directly translates to it's the opposite of warm, and raw is just like you can hear the raw waveform playing, and that goes away if you start adding choruses and stuff. Did we find a plural for chorus already? It's choruses now. Anyway, that stuff I would stick away from, and also because it sounds raw, like you can pick out individual sawtooths from the high end, layering in some low octave note might probably be a good idea. Maybe that helps you already. So synth, just simple chord, note an octave down. What else? Yeah, heavy filtering, distortion, saturation. Maybe in stages. Noise, good noise. And maybe if you have worked your way through the sound and ate everything away that isn't the substance sound, then you can start adding very mono-y choruses in mild areas. Yeah, it could make sense. That's how I would approach that, but right now that's something we should really do a session about. By the way, what I wanted to ask you is, so I didn't check the Patreon yet. Please at least fill out the polls. They are public to give me a better idea of what you want and need. But the other thing is, maybe we can have another session this week and deconstruct something to begin with. And I think that these sounds could be very interesting. I will think about that and let you know. So, Timur, yes, it's very nice to see your name in the chat as well. I hope you are fine and your family is too, and that you manage to navigate the circumstances in a sane way. Yeah. Hey Tomoya, I could totally listen to those sounds 24/7. JCO, what's good noise? That is a very good question. That is a really good question. I think noise that sits on top isn't particularly good noise. I think I like noise, or what I like about noise in dub techno is when it's moving like this, and when it sits on top of other signals. So I really like the air windows tape dust, or the noise that's coming out of the magnetic and the wavetable echo, when it is not just white noise, but it sounds like it's been going through a signal chain already, and there is a particular quality about that. It's not specifically white noisy, it's more like pink noise, brown noise, I don't know noise. But when it communicates with sound, to me, that is really nice noise. Carries a little bit of the delays and texture. It's just like an ocean. Oh, sorry. That is good noise to me. And that's also the kind of noise that sits on top of tapes, for example. That is also good noise, especially if you tuck it onto bass. That the Air Windows tape dust works really well for that. Or I also love the noise Plug Porta FM has on top. That's a very great dope plugin that's meticulously crafted after those old FM chips, and I think David, the developer, spent a lot of time figuring out what's really going on with the quantization of the chips, and it has this 8 to 11.5 bit crush to it, and you can hear it in the envelopes, and when you lower the output you also get very interesting noise artifacts. That to me is good noise, when it, just like old samplers, and old sampler crunch is also good noise. That quantization noise, the way it shapes the transients, the information it removes, and the crunch you get from that is also good noise. So there are many qualities of good noise if you think about that. Was it an answer or just a stupid excursion? The plural form of chorus is choruses or choruses, dated. Thank you, Lemick. About factors, and it's a device that uses machine learning to decompose any audio clip into a set of elements. You can rearrange and modify these elements to remix clips, remove notes, create complex textures. I think I've seen it. And you know what? I want to be in charge of my music. I don't want any AI in that. I'm really wary about anything that's labeled AI. I mean, AI is the stupid crap that keeps us telling to buy toilet paper on Amazon for 3 weeks if you just bought toilet paper. But I will check that out. Maybe I'm too... Then again, it sounds really interesting. Rearrange, modify elements. The creating complex textures thing sounds cool. I will give it a try. Thank you for the hint. And I need to curb my AI thoughts. Name the difference between noise and music. Yeah, what would John Cage say? Have you seen this thing? Lovely clip. Can I play that? Oh no, not that. Nah, I won't play it here. 4 minutes. It's good. And I also, so we the context is we just had a lengthy discussion or excursion about noise on the Discord, and that was really interesting how we puzzled together the pieces and segued into like photography and the role of noise there, and I came to the conclusion that oddly enough noise is a quality of nature. I mean, if you try to build a mirror for something like a Hubble telescope or anything like that, you have to really get rid of the noise and flatten the surface to become clean. Because the real problem is that I mean, straight lines don't really exist in nature if you think about that. If you go zoom close into stuff, it's always noisy in its own ways. Oh, this is getting really philosophic. I'll stop right here. Sienna, toilet paper is sold out even on Amazon? Really? That could be potentially the stupidest achievement in human history. I don't know why. I mean, yeah, why? I don't understand that. Yeah, music is noise with structure, right? It is. The Discord. Ledra, yes, Discord. So you can find the link in the last video, not in the comments, in the description. Yep. There is an SU window I need to close. So what else can we do these days? Like I said, I'm Sherlocking my way through Bitwig and its grid and try to make something that resembles the quality of the OB6, and it's really a learning exercise because I'm not good at building these things. I do understand synthesis. If you present me stuff with knobs, I understand, but dealing with math functions and stuff like that on this level, that is hard work, but it's really interesting. And yeah, let's talk about that as well if you're interested. Anyway, one more thing I find very interesting if you struggle with chords. Grab yourself the basic information from a scale. Let's forget about progressions. Is this of any value? No, you find websites which just give you the notes and then enter all notes of the scale and start spreading them out. An octave higher, take this one, remove that one, try to find your own way through inversions and what you can find there, and really take time, make a nice sound that works for you, and see how many variations that sound good to you can you create in 45 minutes. Or how can you use velocity in interesting ways? If you're using Wavetable, for example, or any other VST plugin, and how do interesting patches use velocity? Make that a lesson and really create some kind of pattern with varying velocities and see how much you can get out of that. That's really interesting and useful case for learning new stuff as well. And how do different note lengths affect the sound, especially on stuff like with dynamic envelopes. That's also a very interesting thing. If you have a redominator, for example, that has very quirky unitype envelopes, and they respond a lot to velocity and note lengths, and there is a lot of interesting stuff happening, especially for chords like that. So try to focus on one thing for a period of time that you haven't dealt with it before. 45 to 90 minutes. And I'm sure you will discover at least one thing that you haven't heard before, or known before, or realized before maybe, that you can benefit from in the future. And what of these tiny lessons could those be? Learning shortcuts. I still struggle with shortcuts in Ableton. I lost my cheat sheet, and right now I think, why? Where is it? Why did I lose it? Where is it gone? And same for Bitwig. I found out that it's really good for actually editing sounds and samples. Much more than any free editor I have right now. By the way, I'm also working on a little bit of bonus content for the Patreon right now. That's why I somehow need ways to cut up samples and struggle with finding good tools. If you have something that's free and not Audacity or Ogun audio editor, let me know, especially for finding loops in a lot of material. I'm still looking for something in that domain. Yeah, but I really like using set time boxes for focusedly working on things that I feel I don't know enough about. Another interesting thing, and that's also something I want to offer on Patreon, is like coaching type questions to help you find out what you don't know, what's frustrating you. For example, I tend to get really frustrated when arranging music in Ableton because lack of shortcuts, and I think there is much more to the physics. There is this interesting Mr. Bill video on YouTube that I could learn to mitigate the situation. Or how can you use parameter ranges? It's a very common thing in Ableton to, I mean, have you ever used this? You just grab a knob and assign it to that, and right now I have a problem when I'm, for example, jamming around. No, this isn't working. It's interesting. It's upside down. Anyway, my point is, look for value ranges that make sense for what or how you want to shape the sound. Otherwise, you can easily end up in areas that are annoying, just like this. And looking for these tiny things, I think the time we have right now it's very good for all these details. So, check. Evil Fear, hello. Noise is needed to keep you sane. An echoic chamber is apparently very uncomfortably after a short time. Yes. Absolutely. If you join the Discord, you will find a lot on that topic in, where was it? IDB Software? From yesterday. Yes, I can type in there. Stereo Jack. By the way, am I utterly boring you out right now? I don't know how many people are viewing this. If it bears any value for rewatching, but let me know. Also, if we have scratched some issues or topics that need more in-depth coverage, let me know. So, because I've been lately asked, hey, which plugins do you use? I love the Valhalla delay next to Magnetic. They are very different things, and especially for coloring stuff. Right now this is sitting on the drum channel, is it? No, it's wrong instance. And this doesn't do any delay, it just drives the sound a little bit. And there we have noise again. Do we? Yes. Depending on the mode. That's also kind of noise I really enjoy, and the drive is just lovely. I need to figure that out some more. I love Soundtoys Phase Mistress for the sheer variety of different phases you get, and phases and stereo are also a very interesting topic, by the way. If you use a phaser in mono or just very mild stereo, it changes the way in sound that doesn't sound too well. Phasers can easily turn the room around. If you want to avoid that but only get this watery thing, put it into mono. And yeah, David's the plugins, Porta FM, and that's also something I'm heavily using, especially for bass. It has the perfect lately bass sound, I think. Does it? It does. That is something. Do I make advertisements right now? No, I'm sharing with you what I enjoy doing right now, and I don't get paid to say anything. This is probably way too loud. This is the rhythm of the night. Oh, strictly on topic. Yeah, lovely thing, and you can also hear the lovely noise it makes, right? And it has all these weird settings for the digital audio conversion chips. Like you can put it into... Oh wait, it's not Porta FM. That I mean... Well, Porta FM is great too. What I like about this is the... Well, for one... It also has a lately bass. And where are... So... Welcome to a dumb amount of different audio converter emulations. I just love stuff like that. If people spend time on doing all these crazy things accurately, that is really nice. And it does shit tons of bass as well, and it sits really well in the mix. Good plugin. what else? Yeah, the Novatron, of course, happens to be my favorite compressor, and took like 5 minutes to do so. The amount of flavor you can get from that, stunning. Really damn good. Quick check. Mr. Krutisch. Hello. Thanks for dropping by. Also, Neosolid. Hi. With 2 people joined the Discord during the stream, so they found it. Yes, good. Thanks for letting me know. Isa asks, what do you think is the future for dub techno? Do you think we can still advance the sound in new interesting directions? Why not? I don't know, of course. I lately started working on a ghetto house dub track, 140 in your face with a lot of noise and chords on top. That was strange. But I mean, there will always be someone who does things in different ways. And the same accounts for any kind of music, doesn't it? So I don't know. Why not? And if it doesn't, I don't care either. To me, making this type of music is about space and mood, and in a way explaining myself to me. If I find some coherence in what I'm wanting to create, the kind of sound I want, I feel happy and sort of relieved because I did that. I managed to take something and put it into the machine, and the machine keeps playing the sound back, and that to me is much more important than novelty or trying to work out things that didn't exist. And very often I just sit here and enjoy something like this and just tweak details and maybe record it and maybe not. And I mean, I haven't released music in a while, which I'm planning to do soon as well. I've got a few new tracks, but to me this is more about if someone else out there listens to what I was trying to say with my music and says, hey, I like that, I understand that it makes me feel somehow, that's cool. And it doesn't have to be novel or unique. Is techno about making unique things? Yes, it was some time ago, and the futurism, and I think it has to get raw and dirtier again and maybe less perfectly produced, which is a problem. If once you have reached a certain level of production, getting away from your own ways is quite the thing. I mean, we have this, and JCO knows what's coming right now, the shit music combo at a demo party, where it's the goal to create a piece of music that isn't music. It has to be shit, but it doesn't have to be a shitty piece of music, like just boring. It has to be publicly voted to be entertaining shit in a way. And boy, that's hard. Try to come up with something that isn't somehow structured in ways that are musical. Yeah, that's also something. Do that next week or this week. 90 minutes, try to come up with something that you deem to be quality shit. That will be tough. JCO, isn't it? Isa, did that answer your question? I mean, to stick with the words of John Cage, silence music is like someone's talking, silence is like no one's talking. So if music is about someone's talking, then it's about finding someone we want to listen to. And if these people exist, what matters if it's new or old or stuff like that. Siana, no, that's Remute, who does all the Sega Mega Drive techno, right? And I'm sure he has new stuff. I cannot wrap my head around. That could also be interesting, but I have so much content to structure right now and move things forward and give people a reason to jump on a potential second tier, and that's what really keeps me busy right now. Isa, also interesting to know about your next projects that you feel like you want to release. Yeah, I guess it's don't expect too much. It's just dub techno. And yeah, I'm preparing something, and I'm also preparing finally the re-release of the Thinner 005, the Northern Lights. I'm getting close to that. Not sure if the world really needs it, but I doubt though that I'll be pushing my music to Spotify or anything like that sometime soon. Because I have no incentive. Maybe. It sounds so complicated. You have to register with DistroKit and all that stuff, right? Yeah, I guess Bandcamp will do. Anyway. Hi Nicholas. How to keep low mid and low end frequencies as much as balanced and same time put several in its place with pan space and level, but not to get mud in further work with sub and kit as well. Do I understand you correctly that you want to use panning on bass instead of saturation, for example? My voice is a bit muffled. I didn't change anything. Maybe I was too far away from the microphone, but nobody complained. You don't want to pan sub because it isn't conceivable directionally anyway. If you put sub into one speaker, yes, you get less amounts of sub from the other one for one, but it will distribute in ways that are different from the rest of the frequencies. Okay, no, you say I mean low mid section of synth and steps and further mixing with lows. Is it still muffled? Hey Gizmo, I hope you are well. Nicholas, I'm thinking about that, and I'm not sure if I understand you. Keep low mid and low frequency. processing the low end or low mids of steps individually or apart from the rest, I mean, can do that. Can make sense. Why not? But I mean, sometimes you want more low end information in a quarter step. Right now, there is none. But that's just specific to this tune. I'm not really sure how to respond. Can anyone specify what muffled means? Maybe I started muffling along the way? Well, are you doing fine? Oh, by the way, more plugins. So, a favorite of mine right now is this free EQ saturation thing by Joachim. It's former bass developer, and I'm sorry, it had to happen, of course. Yes, funny snapshots. And it's not a traditional EQ. It also comes with a heavy saturation section based on transistors, tubes, and strange compression things, and it is the single best tool for me to fill areas and holes in frequency ranges or drive them really hard. You cannot produce too much gain with that. You really distort the shit out of a frequency range as much as you like, and it sounds damn good. If you want some really high-end sizzle, this does the job really well. It works damn good, and it's free, and thanks Joachim for that. It's genius. And another thing I enjoy very much is this very smooth and silky filter, which he ported from Bass to VST, and it's also free, and it's currently in development, and it sounds bloody amazing, especially for removing low-end information, and it's good. Getting back to Nicholas, and know this frequency get a lot of space, especially 120 to 40, and when you try to cut, you're losing life or steps. Yes, okay, now I understand what you mean. Get the encedados and saturate the frequency range, then turn it down. That might work. Or make space in the other elements of your track. If you feel that there is some kind of overload in the area, try finding an element that is very prominent but doesn't contribute to the main sound, and turn that down a little bit. Or remove the lowest note from a chord, or maybe the highest note from the bass that is conflicting. And generally speaking, I would always tweak stuff like that in the context of the mix. So you look for the frequencies in solo maybe, and then as soon as you found the area you want to work on, get back to the context of the mix and try to work your way through that. Otherwise, from my experience, I end up tweaking sounds until they sound good in solo and put them into the context of the mix, and then I spot, oh no, that was too much. But maybe it wasn't the track or sound I was working on, it was something else that now needs adjusting. So looking around for other conflicting areas might be a good idea, and then do the same thing again. Look for the frequency range in solo, put the mix back on, and amplitudes I would totally define in the context of the mix and do the tweaking there. Otherwise it's just going back and forth, and that sucks. It's not efficient. Dinu, hi, welcome. Hope you're fine. How to not be frustrated when you spend lots of time on a track and you realize it just doesn't work. Well, which options do you have? That implicates, and I know that as well, that I worked on something for way too long because I was anally retentive and I didn't want to know and should have let gone earlier, or I was working on the wrong areas. The question then is, yes, that is very frustrating. I think realizing that something in the process can be optimized or changed, or something should be noticed earlier in order to prevent that from happening again, is the more interesting perspective than being frustrated, right? I mean, I know that stuff that happens a lot still. The question is, how can I prevent that from happening in the future? What do I need to know that I don't know or didn't know throughout this process that would help me in the future to prevent me from getting into the same situation again? And the question is, what does "it doesn't work" really mean? I find that too vague, and it is like the voice of frustration, I guess. Like, shit ain't working. But what is it that isn't working? Is it a balance issue, a frequency issue? Is the sound shitty or not what I want? Can I change a synth or remove something? Is it too much? Is it too little? What's missing? I would probably try to find out more about what this doesn't work means. And I guess that carefully listening to your material can reveal something about that. And yes, it's one of these unknown things that if you don't know what you need to know, that sucks. I get it. But I think being frustrated about that is a waste of time. Ask yourself questions. Try to find out what you need to know about the situation, and then maybe you find out that you don't know how to tackle the problem at hand, which is the next interesting question to Sherlock into. But that's how I would approach it, I guess. Bye, JCO. Did that help? Yeah. And JCO has sometimes it takes a long while until I get what was the problem with old tracks that didn't work out. Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's like staring into one's own black box and waiting for an answer to a question that hasn't been asked. Yeah, and that's really the tricky stuff. So what I'm taking from Dinyo, your input here is asking people more questions on Patreon could potentially be a good idea. Good, thank you. What are interesting questions then? I think the one, what do I need to know what I don't know right now, is not very actionable, but maybe the realization helps dealing with frustration. If you listen to your track that didn't work out, or a different perspective, I mean, you've been part of the process of making that track. If you could make or think about your process in ways like synth programming, mixing, arrangement, space, sound, shaping, which areas come the easiest to you and are the most fun, and which areas present you with the most frustration and struggle in itself, and then try to prioritize that. It's probably not too easy, but then things become more actionable. If you manage to, for example, find out, oh, my bass drums just suck, I don't know, the low end doesn't cut, or the bass doesn't sit, or I don't know how compression works, or stuff like that, that's when you can take action. I would spend probably a lot of time thinking about that until I have found some perspective which allows me to tackle the issue at hand. Yeah. Is there anybody out there? And by the way, did you get anything out of this stream that you want to try, or at least did I make you hop over to Patreon and maybe click on the pulse? Or feedback, please. I like feedback, not only in audio. And I look at the clock. Almost 2 hours. So Felix, no? What does no mean? Everybody's gone? You are the only one? I mean, if it was good entertainment, in some way soothing, maybe Bob Rossish, that's fine by me. Yeah, noise. I can talk about noise for hours, really, just like I talked about other stuff like Moby tracks. Noise is a quality of nature, and we need more noise. I want noisy displays and noisy typography, and give me a browser that emulates how ink burns into white space. That would be great, so much easier to read and stuff like that. It's good. And even interesting thing. So I sat down with the OB6 and just checked out how the waveforms on the oscilloscopes and so look. And of course there is noise in there. I mean, how can it be? It's very low level, But looking at the scheme made me figure out, well, it's analog oscillators, and it has VCA stages in between everything. So the chance that there is tiny amounts of noise between every single stage and component going on made me implement a little bit of noise into this signal chain just after the oscillator, just to give it this tiny little wiggle, so the waveform keeps fluctuating. Not even 1% of noise even was enough to introduce this wiggly, and it's interesting how it makes the waveform occupy more space, doesn't it? I mean, you don't. If I hold my finger like this right now and I don't move it, it occupies this space, right? Once I start just wiggling about it, I'm making the space, I'm using more fat, and in a way that's how you can also create richer and fatter sounds, by just adding some noise, if you think about how they occupy more space in the spectrum. And it also affects how the synth voices sum obviously has to, and it eases a number of problems, especially with saw and other harsh waveforms. If you have these, and that's one gripe I have with plugins in general, that really give you perfect sines and perfect saws. If you play a chord and you have the peaks of a number of waves perfectly lined up, and that happens periodically, of course, you can, if you use an oscilloscope, every now and then see some really ugly spikes where the samples overlapped, and it has to happen, obviously. I mean, how can't it, unless you tackle the issue by adding a different kind of summing or clipping, or I don't know. If you don't do that, you get these continuous flow of spikes that are just above the waves, and they don't saturate well and create a number of harsh other problems. And that, interestingly, I think that is why analog synths sound so good. They have less of these issues courtesy to noise. Does it make sense? Just noise. And even if you add really tiny amounts of noise, and that's the great thing about Bitwig, what I like, that you can really build your own synth voices. If you use the voice stacking feature, then you get the benefits of something, even though I don't know if how the processing really works. I think the filters are polyphonic. Is everything else polyphonic? Would it, if I build a synth voice, actually also re-trigger such noise devices? I don't know. That's something I have to invest. Will be interesting as well. However, I managed to create a filter that sounds stunningly close to the OB6, and that in itself is an achievement for the developers of that software. Like giving people not too much low-level entry stuff, but just enough so you can create a lot of different things. Cool, really cool. And that's I try to work with Max for Life, but it's just too low-levelly for me. I really enjoy what R. Rose is doing with that, and Mono Lake, and I'm not that's not my level of expertise, unfortunately. And I love to be able to code, but I don't want to learn it. So I'm putting your audio through the Strymons. Yes, of course. It gives a echo chambery feel. Hey Travis. Damn, just woke up and saw this live stream, but have to get ready for work. Thank you for tuning in beforehand, and I think we have soon also come to an end here, and I need to check out what's going on in the community on Discord, and I really want to get back to work on so many things. Where to start? That is my main source of frustration, choosing what to move forward next, because there is so much one can do. Chris Mütze, yes, you don't need to learn it, just do it, TM. Yeah. As if it was a happy little tree. You have to make a big decision now. Little rascal. Yeah. JCO do invest in noise. It's good. There is so much to find. There are so many kinds of noise, pleasant noise, unpleasant noise, and it's like rain. A while ago I looked for a continuous recording of rain to put me asleep, and it was some years ago, and all I found was looping stuff that looped after a minute, and if you're in bed for like 20 minutes, your brain picks up the repetition, and then it's like, fail. No, I don't want that. Fortunately, the situation changed, and people are uploading 10 hours of rain on YouTube right now. I don't need it at the moment. But same for noise. I think white noise in itself is too stressful. Anyway, got carried away. Hey Laudrup, just tuned in. Nice to see you streaming. I hope you're well. Yes, I'm not sure how long I can keep up making up things out of the blue that are interesting, but that's something I leave up to you guys in the chat. JCO music, yes, of course. Yeah, please do. That's a good question. How do you go about creating pleasant noise digitally? It depends. I mean, that is probably a little bit on top, or expanding the thoughts earlier. Is this about putting noise on top of things? Then magnetic and these things work fine. I don't sit down and create noise myself. I guess pleasant noise, if I wanted to create pleasant noise digitally, it would involve a lot of filtering and modulation, like any other sound. I think noise has to be moving as well for a certain period of time. I mean, in the end, you're mixing it into music as well, so the repetition gets lost in the other things, but a lot of filtering and cutting, phasing can be interesting. Would be interesting to find out. Let me check out something. Here's another fun toy, by the way. And I need to put that somewhere else. Yes, I'm sorry. That is a 440. So, for the sake of trying. So that's just the free basic Melder oscillator, and I like that a lot, especially because you can easily create very complex stuff, and I should avoid doing that. And turn it down. That's probably a little bit like dentist stuff, but you get the idea. And I guess using this as a sound source I hope this isn't too unpleasant noise. Wait, harmonize, clean, sharp. Yeah, the ocean waves. I think you don't want to listen to this exclusively. Yes, this is an additive oscillator coming with the free Melder bundle, and it's capable of creating really weird sounds and drones. And right now, yeah, this is looping. But let's add... I'm afraid of turning this up. Is it good? Let's add some modulation to that and teach it some movement. In Bitwig I could probably add some stuff to macros and do things with that, but fine control. That's not specifically pleasant noise, but it's noise. And we can easily jazz this up. Welcome to a 60s control room. Yeah, that's really 60s. But okay, so if pleasant noise was the goal, this is a Sätzen 6. But you never know. Fun thing, this really interesting thing. Oh wait, we have the music pleasurizer. Yeah, sorry for the feedback. Let me generate something more pleasant. Alkama, hello. And hello, Neosolyt. Cuckoo. So just for what did I want to do right now? Let's add some pleasure to that. Hello, Casual Error. You are just tuning into the question of how would I approach making pleasant noise, and we stranded somewhere in a Russian 60s control chamber that is doing weird things, and I'm totally failing at doing that. However, this is really interesting, and the point is about this thingy being free, underrated, and a box of weird, strange timbres. And yeah, this is a way of changing the additive content. Okay, context. Casual Error. For what do you want that noise for the background? That was so. Laudrup asked earlier, and let me check that to be precise. How do you go about creating pleasant noise digitally? The answer is not like that, or not with this set of effects. I mean, yeah, probably start with white noise and filter that to oblivion. What noise generator do we have? No, not this one, but there is another one. Give me a second and give me that noise. Chris is so busy making plugins. He did make something that's not noise 64 but generates noise, and I cannot find it because I mean, wait, how about the obvious choice? Okay, that's not noise either, just clicks. It's more like a Geiger counter on acid. Wait. No. We have got some nice noise in here. Gotta be cautious. We don't hear anything. Let me disable that real quick. That doesn't sound too shitty to me. If you have Ableton and Wavetable, there goes your noise. I guess it's a fake because it's just noise samples as well, but who cares? I mean, you have all the flexibility that you want, all the control. What's moving this? LFO1. The noise source now is a random wavetable swept with sine modulation. Yes, that's it. And you've got all kinds of noise. Interesting tape stop thing. Is this loud enough? I don't want to. Let me. Well, that's some crazy stuff. But it's not noise. And I mean, of course, if you want really pleasant noise, you grab your iPhone and go to the radio sitting on your toilet, hopefully, and just point to anything between the stations and record that. That is good noise, I think. And maybe you can then put that into Wavetable. I mean, you can, obviously. Okay, that is too mechanic. Probably needs... maybe some random modulation. Let's modulate this rate with that. Just to introduce more static. Or get away from the static. This is a shitty example. So that's probably an approach. Yeah. That probably doesn't make any sense on the stream anymore. And that's the trouble when you start working in too many DAWs at once and look for the same thing. It's utility in Ableton and Tool in Bitwig can end up in confusing moments. That's cool. I think the polyphasic subspace responder in my spaceship just broke. Yeah. And what really makes the sound interesting, and that's something simple but easily overlooked, is these modulations that are alternating against each other. That is, yes, our Roses is doing that as well all the time, and that has been part of what I'm trying to give away as idea. Use LFOs that aren't synced to each timing, but use them with slight offsets, and that creates a number of interesting things. Interesting what Gulfos does. Yeah, I guess I'm the only one who's using this thing for sound design and not making masters sound better, but really turning sounds into crazy stuff. Highlighting frequencies or stuff like that. Oh no, this is too loud. Why did nobody say anything? So, any further questions? Because I notice my bladder is complaining. I hope you got some inspiration for what you want to try during the next days, or how you want to think about something, or I don't know. And shall we do this again this week? Maybe with a little bit more preparation and on topic of something. Let me know, and also join me on Patreon and get me coffee. You know now that I want to keep doing these things, and I really want to build something that is beneficial for everyone. It's not about me, it's about community and learning new things and trying out things, and when I can help, that's cool, and I'm willing to give everything away I know, but we need to talk about that. So, Felix, no more info about my bladder. It is very healthy, and it wants to be taken somewhere. And I will do another one ASAP, Mike. And yeah, let's work out this thing. I would really love to be able to sustain a living from doing stuff like this and talk to you and answer questions and make short videos, make long videos, and think about synthesis and go as deep as we possibly can into the ocean of waves. Like that. And break sounds and make sounds and give each other feedback and think about ways we can improve things. I only know so much. I'm not that much clever. I'm good at thinking about stuff, which makes me ask stupid questions, tons of them. So 5 Euro ins Phrasenschwein, bitte. It's not about me, it's about community. Okay. Yeah, I get it. But if you do know me, you know that is very true. We don't exist in a vacuum. So, can I please go to the toilet now? Guys. Okay, Nicholas, arrangement techniques, yes, part of that. And dub stuff and approaches, yes, I totally want to do that. And I'm figuring out ways how to set up the camera so that I'm able to do that. And I have a camera, another one that I want to incorporate, but it doesn't work. And yes, and that is my perfectionist speaking. But that's also on the plate. Absolutely. And it's not that complicated, really. So, thank you very much for tuning in. I'm looking forward to reading and finding out what's going on in the comments and the next days and the polls and the community and all that stuff. And in the end, what music you make with that is really the point of this, right? And please stay sane and use hand sanitizer. 20 seconds. It's important. It's good. And don't kiss random people on the street. Yeah, and stay healthy. Really. That's the most important thing, right? So, without further ado, I really need to pee, and do not forget to flush. This concludes the stream, I guess. See you around, guys, and I hope that the short notice works. And with that said, yes, I will probably throw some info about the next stream tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. And we'll meet again. Okay. Do I have any filter? No. Doch. Stay sane, folks. And have a very good evening. How do I end this? All right. Oh, big hug to Italy. Very much so. Oh boy. Yeah. Bye. Yes, I'm sure I want to end the stream. My bladder says yes.